Hey travelers, it's me, Caroline, Kim, and Xander, and this is
Immersive storytelling. What's up? Hello.
Each one of us will provide a little background of what makes us us. I hope to bring insight into the ancient civilization world. I come from a background in classical civilization. Also have 2 certifications, one in data analytics from USC and one in architecture and urban design from UCLA. And yeah, I enjoy working with brands to make unforgettable experiences across all touch points in the marketing world.
What's up? I'm Xander Simms, creatively known as Xander Love. I'm an artist, designer, and technologist. I've been working with brands for about the last decade to create next generation content and media. It was really focused on like social media production and content production. And the name of my company is Digital Storytellers Inc., Reality by Design. And we help brands step into next generation content, be it like generative AI, video productions, motion graphics, 3D graphics and animation now, as well as immersive experiences in e-commerce like NFTs and those sort of things, especially with digital fashion. So that's what I do commercially, and creatively I'm also an artist and release music and that's to express myself, and then helping brands and other agencies express themselves.
I'm Loza. By trade, I'm a software engineer that specializes in extended reality. I'm also the founder of Pradithia. I have a passion for creating immersive experiences for social good. So in the promoting diversity, equity, inclusion through music and social experiences. I also serve as a technical product manager for People Tech Revolution, building virtual reality experiences from lived-in experience. So I have a very close love for DEI and the power that can be harnessed by using emerging tech.
So I have some cards here, which we will go over. Our kickoff question: what does immersive storytelling mean to you?
I'll try to jump in and give the most simple answer I can for such a expansive question and field. But to me, it's kind of utilizing the tools that can engage the most senses to create mythology. Like human mythology that most of our legends and beliefs are based off of. I think modern mythology is much more on demand. So yeah, I think it's just utilizing the technologies and tools that can most encompass our senses and engage our senses and get it to convey the message of our stories.
For me, I would say it's being able to share a deep connection or experience. Well, I don't want to use experiences in the title, but share a perspective using different forms of medium that, as Xander was saying, touch your senses in different ways.
Immersive storytelling means having a connection or an understanding of even a feeling of being surrounded and encompassed by something, whether it's left up to the imagination or your imagination to put you in that surrounded environment. There's some sort of symbolism or realism in it. Immersive storytelling for me is that feeling that you get when you're surrounded by something and embraced almost. So let's talk about our auditory functions in our storytelling and how music or sound or audio, how that plays a role in your perspective on immersive storytelling, and how you think about audio when you're either creating an experience or experiencing it yourself, how that plays in the storytelling.
Oh, I love it. Music was kind of the creative arts my first love, so it holds a very special place in my heart. And I saw this really cool, like right around when I was trying to establish myself just beyond the auditory performing arts about grad school. I came across this TED talk, and it was about radio astronomy. We basically had heard the universe before we seen it. Long story short, we've heard, with radio waves, we heard a lot of the universe before we ever saw it. So, sound is kind of like, to me, the original immersive art form, maybe you could say. And then the other thing was the role that auditory plays in is as a visual designer. A lot of the users' experiences about what they consider to be good film or good video is actually about like 70% is based off the audio quality. And so that was a really like helpful tidbit I had learned or from somewhere on the internet from like a tutorial or something that gave me confidence to really step into more so the visual arts at the time. This was about a decade ago. So yeah, that's kind of my, I think it's like the backbone, the most immersive of the art forms. And it's not exactly my specialty anymore. For professional clients, it's still artistically one of my favorite things to explore. The different like kind of audio productions and audio production tools. I use like native instruments and machine primarily nowadays. So it's cool to see that, the immersive sound is an entire category in the XR and immersive world. I'm really excited to like the Dolby sound and all this sort of advanced audio tools and productions are really interesting and intriguing to me. And yeah, I look forward to see how sound can continue to evolve the overall production.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I guess for me, I'd say in order to like the more senses you can touch, the more immersive an experience can kind of be. So I had read this quote that said, artwork is how you decorate walls. Music's how you decorate time. I feel that very, very much. Like it's a tool. Music is a tool in some ways to communicate with people who you might not need to speak with them with words. It's like music is a universal language of its own. So in that way, I find that it's kind of a tool in how you can tell a story. A lot of the content that's been going viral isn't necessarily because because they're saying a lot. It's sometimes just by sounds, they're just telling a story. And it's been really nice to, I guess, step into that, especially with these forms of like, now you're seeing a lot of technology also step into 360 audio, which has also added to like the ability for you to tell a story, because now you can also direct where the sound is coming from. And you can pretty much, just from your computer at home or like even on your phone, you can create something that's like was only before like only the movies did. Mm-hmm. Now everyone is a creator with like themselves, adding all these, like I could add a horn or like all these crazy sounds that were it was just for the movies. But now like everyone else has the chance to now basically romanticize their life through these like sounds, and I find it very beautiful.
How does live stage performance or lighting fit into your perspective of immersive? Like, how do you set the stage with these tools?
I could give it a tackle because I think I understand kind of where you're going from, and the whole adding, as a person who throws music festivals,
Yes.
lighting for me is very important. So
Okay.
It's when you have lights or something that also reacts to the music, you can keep. This is why people like love music festivals. It makes them feel connected to something bigger than them. And a lot of times too, with these kind of tools that it can.
It's interesting that you said like it makes you feel connected to something larger than ourselves, and I think that was like where I was going when I was describing what it means to me, like this embracing, all encompassing experience. And like every time I feel like each story is different. So I feel like the storytelling output that you choose is different, but whether the unifying factor is that it's immersive and it's like this, thing that's so big, it's surrounding you. Uh, but that in the same sense can also push someone to feel connected to something that is so much bigger than you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That was like when I was choosing my career, my interests, those were the things I was most drawn to. Exactly how you said it, like things that made me feel more connected to myself, like music and like, for me, like physical sports and like weightlifting and a few things like that. But it's a very short list of things that make me feel that. But absolutely those kind of immersive live concert experiences, especially as they continue to evolve, are absolutely incredible. Of the tying together of like the augmented reality light shows with the live music and like
Drone shows.
holograms. What did you say? What did you say?
Drone shows.
Oh, drone shows. Oh my gosh. Yeah, dude, that's like absolutely incredible. And then on the other side, from the digital side, being able to experience those things in the metaverse or a virtual world, like a firsthand concert experience you wouldn't be able to necessarily get, or like a sporting event, from it being so immersive that even the screen is not really that much of a barrier, from an incredible experience. And the last
Oh,
part, yeah, go ahead.
oh no, go. I just said I love that.
Oh, cool. And the last part I think is really cool is having a moment is like with fashion, and like virtual try-ons and retail activations are also kind of blending, sort of a spectacular experience, like a mini immersive like concert or just like cinematic experience, into your retail shopping, which I think is really cool,
Kind of, I guess, amazing because you don't even realize too how much like this emerging tech has been affecting the music scene, but it has, even like when you go watch a performer now and you see them on stage, but they have all these crazy effects, like they're basically doing like AR live
And
or
projection mapping.
yeah, I love projection mapping, yes. And then the lights all synced, it's a whole thing. Or you know filters, like filters with events, like it's a whole people, like I guess you get brought into this world. So I think there's also a lot we could touch on probably about like the merging of the digital and the physical, because that's also a space that's coming up now. Like it's going to be very big when you can do an event in the digital and it feels like you're the more you can feel like you're really there. That's going to be really big for like artists to be able to connect with their fans. Like during COVID, a lot of artists who weren't able to connect with their communities found ways to build their communities through doing online performances. And people got heavy into green screens. Like I think everyone's been trying those out these days. I know I do.
Yes, 100%.
Yes. And with that, green screens, it's fun to play with the imagination. And I think that's what is so interesting about, this technological ability that we have now and all of the resources, which I imagine we will be dropping on the next episode, like generative AI tools and things like that, because, all of these new tools and resources are new ways to output your story. And we all have stories to tell. But I feel like these new technological connectors are
Mhm.
ways to, uh, you know, reach people that have already been living in this merged world, right? For the last 10 or so years, I would argue that we've already been merging the physical and the digital just in ways that were sort of suppressed or not fully realized. Now that we have the abilities to fully realize them is the time, I think, to be so creative and so imaginative, because that imagination could bring that green screen into a whole other, reality that we never even were able to make because we didn't have things like generative AI or, like Kim said earlier, the video film production in an instant kind of thing, that we haven't been able to do before on a widespread sort of every person level. I think Sandra, you were um, gonna add something into the mix.
Oh, um, I think what I was thinking of, like some of the biggest movies of all time, like Avengers and Avatar, and those sort of this is sort of the same kind of trend. You know, a lot of those films were enhanced through green screens and different kind of immersive technology. So it's cool, you know, to go from the silver screen to the handheld screen, and like Tim was saying earlier, get a lot of that same like firepower that maybe like 10 years ago would have required a Hollywood budget or like a small visual effects team. And now, like anyone on a lot of these apps like Snapchat or TikTok or Instagram can reproduce a lot of those, or at least a similar level of product, and it's only continuing to change. One trend I saw that was really interesting this Black Friday was that the VR headsets had outsold the like earbuds this year, you know, as far as adapting technology. So that's a really interesting and cool trend, you know, as the technology becomes more commonplace. And that's just like a more, people are more fluent in that, you know, medium. I think is really exciting.
There's so much tech we could cover. Like, I could talk about this all day.
Okay, here is our fun hot topic, or whatever you want to call it, question, rolling question, which is, what was the last uh, medium that you've interacted with, movie or a book?
Well, like the last book I read in its entirety was Snow Crash. I think I finished that earlier this year, in like January or February, by Neil Stevenson. You know, that's where they got the term the metaverse. And I had started reading it a few times. It's just a 90s sci-fi book, but I just felt like working in the field and industry and loving science fiction, I might as well give it a shot. So that was like the last book I read in its entirety. I have a few I read like excerpts from, or like, you know, highlighted sections. I'll go back and study, you know, Disney, different kind of topics, business, self-development, finance, those sort of things, just like read a little section of them. But I think I watch movies all the time. And actually the last movie I saw was kind of cool. It was Gran Turismo, the that movie, which is like about a competition where they take the best gamer for the simulation driving game, and they make him into like a professional real life race car driver, which is based on a true story, and it was actually pretty good.
I guess for mine, I'll do show and tell. Well, I guess my current read is, oh wow, Emotional Intelligence 2.0. I've heard a lot of good things about it, and I'm halfway through, but it's just, I guess, the ability, you can do so much by just being able to understand other people better. Like, the better I can understand myself and others, it leads to better relationships, and sometimes it's just knowing understanding someone else helps you get so much further in like just finding common goals. And I'm excited to finish this one. I think I'm on the section of like how to better understand others. So this is gonna be a good read. I've been trying to give myself the task of finishing more books. Like I have a bookshelf, but I know sometimes I only like pick up the highlights. So I've been being more diligent about finishing them all. So reading's my more lean to. I wouldn't be able to tell you a film that I watched recently.
In the books you're reading, are they physical or are they audiobooks?
I feel like I need a physical book because I get too distracted with audiobooks, which is kind of funny.
Brittany?
This was a great read. I started physically reading it, and then I got sucked into the audio book and completed it through that. And I don't know, I like to use, I have a whole bookshelf, and I like to have physical books, but I also like to mix in audio if it's available. And also if the narrator is the writer, then I will definitely tune in, kind of thing, because I like to hear the person who wrote it read it. So that's my
So what do you
tidbit.
feel like you get from the person who wrote it reading it? Because like I feel like that's a very interesting comment. Like that would be different from someone who I guess didn't write it.
Yeah, so I like especially the personal stories, like Emrata's book. That was probably the first book that I listened to because she narrated it, and I had gotten into any of that because I was listening to her podcast. So I was kind of familiar with her. I enjoy the way she speaks and talks and thinks about things. So kind of, wanted to see if there was a effect on the story because of the person reading it. Because I think she's a great narrator. I think that sometimes there's just, a sort of natural human aspect possibly of having the person who wrote it, especially if it's a personal work, that they might sort of use a different kind of inflection or focus on certain word or something like that, or have their personality come through naturally just because it's their story that they wrote. And also they have to do the job of narration, which is reading it exactly word for word and still make it their own personality, which I think is a challenge or is not always easy. So yeah, I don't know. I think that, yeah. What do you think, Xander?
I like it too, for a couple of reasons, outside of the ones you mentioned, which are really good. But like for me, like I love hearing for films, like the director's commentary and stuff, because they're usually so behind the scenes. You experience art, but you don't necessarily get to like get into the mind of the creator, or maybe the director, or even the writer, even less or more obscure is the writer's like place in a lot of the productions. So I do like when we get to hear from the creator, because I feel like they bring another dimension, a little bit more insight from the genesis of the creative endeavor. It's really interesting, and not everyone can do that. I don't think you necessarily have to. Like some people like to remain behind the scenes and create the artwork and present it. But I think it's really cool when you can be both behind and in front of the creative art.
That I like about storytelling is when you give a little bit behind the scenes, that stuff that kind of adds to it, kind of gets you this like more connected to the creator, which I guess makes you makes it more of like a special thing. And we can touch that. That's like a great story, because like, I guess tying back to like what makes music so special is, and storytelling is like, music in itself is like telling a story. You know, it has a build up, it has a climax, and like a drop.
And that timing that you were
Yeah.
talking about, like that timeless sort of like connected to outside of yourself element. The other question. Oh, how does imagination play into your perspective?
I feel like one of the best skills you can have like in the future is being creative, because like tools, mediums are becoming so accessible that anyone has the power to be a creator. So the only limitation really is your creativity. If you can imagine it, you can create it.
Yeah, totally. That's incredible, Kev. Yeah, I totally agree with that. One of the other like cool parts maybe of the future of imagination, and I guess like meaning immersive storytelling, is kind of this new paradigm we're entering where we can like blend imaginations, like with the creator's imagination and the audience's imagination, starting to blend together like in more real time. So like content's a little bit more fluid, and you can have more engagement and active like on-demand participation and entertainment. I think that's really exciting. Like, you know, not quite like Inception level, like shared dream experiences, but kind of, you know, in a digital and physical mediums. So I think that's really exciting too, and something I'm starting to consider more, you know, as the tools develop and I create more content, like getting feedback from the community, and the community being able to respond in real time, and affect maybe the storyline or affect the products, and just on demand, personalized, like co-creation and just imagination blending is really exciting as far as like immersive technology.
I know my favorite, well, a quote that I feel like describes me the best is, technology feeds my mind, but music feeds my soul. So even though I love using all these tools, I love it. Like I feel like that one sentence will like tell you everything that you need to know about me. But like I know that pretty much these days I love working with the younger generation, because they don't have fear of like what you can't do anymore. It's kind of crazy in the sense that I'll literally have a question. They're like, oh, I'll Google it. Like their go-to is like, oh, I'm gonna go look at a tutorial on YouTube. I'm like, wait, you're gonna learn how to like make an event flyer from scratch, even though you've never used this tool? There's like no fear in them. They're like, oh, I want to become a DJ. How do I become a DJ? Like, and then they just like search it. Like information used to be, you wouldn't like. I feel like we're in a time that's just kind of like endless possibilities, and it really just comes down to your imagination. So like a lot of the artists that I work with come from places where they don't have as much like access to opportunities as you would out here, you know, like in third world developing countries. But just the amount of tech that they have now, they're still able to like produce music on computers that are like older than them. It's crazy to me. I'm like, this is some of the best music I've ever heard. And the only thing but because now they have the ability to like harness their imagination with just like everyone, like most of the world has a phone. So most of everyone could kind of get in, like if there's anything you want to do, you just got to believe it.
My quote that resonates with me on imagination is an Albert Einstein quote. And it's, logic will take you from A to B, but imagination will take you everywhere. Or I think logic will take you from A to Z. Oops. and imagination will take you everywhere, I believe is the quote. And yeah, I think everywhere, places larger than us, connection, all of that seems to be something that unifies
Us all.
us all, yeah. And also, all of the stories that have come before us and the ones that we are sharing here today.
I love it. I think that's what makes like our squad very special, is because we all have very different skill sets. But the thing that we do have in common is that we all are very creative. So it's always fun working with people who are also creative, because you can kind of just build off ideas. Just, it's the fundamentals of brainstorming.
Yeah, and it's imagination and creativity that I'd say, at least for myself, has not always been an easy thing to express, but also, just to add, I think something that we all bring to the conversation. Stories are other, ways of conversing, right? And I think that we each express ourselves or find unique ways to express who we are, whether it be through fashion, design, music, creating experiences, that sort of uh, collector's experiences, all of it. So, yeah, I don't have much else to add to this week's episode.
Love it. I do have a question, but this
Yes.
is just this could be a sidebar. But like, to you all, why immersive? Like, I know I love this word, but like, to you all, what does it mean to? I know we kind of tackled it in the first piece, but like, what? Like, I feel like you all also love the word immersive, because we're always like, yeah, let's call this immersive storytelling. But what part of it, I guess, like, why? We could have called it so many other things, but we decided to call it immersive.
I like the name. I like it, the spelling and etymology, and like the literal sense of I am, kind of like in the.
I didn't think about that. There is an I am in the beginning.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't ever realize. Yeah, that's really cool.
There, just open another door.
Like, I am traveling.
Yeah.
I feel like it's also because we all have that shared, like, we are creators, and we have like just crazy amounts of tools and mediums that we use to tell our stories, in the hopes of like connecting with other people.
We also, every one of us, I feel like immersive, that word is a unifying word, because we're all immersed in space, technically. We're all like we're literally on this planet that's immersed in this whole vast,
So do you feel like being immersed means like you're part of a thing?
I think it, you're in it. I think because you're in it, you're part of it. That's just my Socratic brain.
I think that's what makes community so powerful.
Immerse yourself in information and imagination.
Immersive storytelling.